Hello everyone, it's Jess Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film, and we've hit the 1950s on our tour through the 80 available films of John Ford's filmography. It's 2024, and we're more than halfway there, and joining me, my most frequent collaborator, and my wife, Jess. Jess, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. I wish that you put that in our vows. That would have been funny.
You are my most frequent collaborator. We're fresh off of going to a wedding, so...
We got weddings on the brain.
It's timely. But we'll be talking about When Willie Comes Marching Home, which is a war comedy. We'll get into that. But if you haven't tuned into the show before, we have 3 segments. We start with coming attractions for July 19th. It's a big one. There's twins! And giant flaming tornadoes. I'm sure you can guess what we're talking about. Then we'll get into our feature film and then leave you off with some recommendations. So, no bones about it. There's one wide release coming out this weekend. There are some things coming out on streaming, including My Spy 2. So, Batista's back with doing that. And then we have Skywalkers, a love story about people walking on tightropes in high places, and I don't love that coming to Netflix. But, most importantly, Jess, why are you so excited for Twisters?
I like a movie where there is big thing destroying little thing.
Okay, and how else are you connected with this movie? Because you haven't been able to stop talking about it since we found out about it.
I'm a weather weenie, so I really enjoy watching weather and some storm chasers. I'm getting pickier with them, but it's fun when it's fictional and not someone's actual life being destroyed, so...
Very fair. And yes, this movie promises twin tornadoes and a giant flaming tornado. So
both of which happened recently, probably not as dramatic about it, but, I mean, I think it was 2014 was the Pilcher twins, but looks fake, even though it was real.
Well, we're going to be seeing it on IMAX on the big screen. Actually, to be more precise, we're probably going to be seeing it on, I think we're watching it on Prime. At AMC Marlton, which is the closest AMC to us. But yeah, so it's going to be big, and we're ready for it. It's also my most anticipated one. This is a light week in terms of things, and I really like the first Twister, so we'll have to see how Twisters turns out. I know some people are disappointed, like my friend Frank, that we're not getting Gladiators instead of Gladiator 2.
I wanted to go for Gladiator 2 Die Harder, but...
There you go.
Alas.
But that is our big coming attraction for July 19th. But getting into our feature film of the week, which is indeed When Willie Comes Marching Home. And this film focuses on Willie Cluggs enters the service with hopes of going overseas, but his uncanny marksmanship keeps him at home as a shooting instructor, much to his embarrassment, as not only is he stuck back in the States, but he's stuck in his hometown because they opened a base in Puxatawny, West Virginia, so not the PA one.
No.
So,
different one.
No groundhogs here. There probably are, but not famous ones. But he winds up getting stuck at home for the vast majority of the film and then goes on a bonkers third act journey. But this movie's only an hour and 22 minutes. So, like, it's a lean movie. But some background for you. So, this is indeed a World War II comedy, which we don't get a whole lot of those. This is based on the 1945 short story When Leo Comes Marching Home. I guess F. Leo. They wanted Willie instead.
Which they call him Billy, or Bill most of the time.
Yep.
I was like, what's this title? Why wasn't it When Billie Comes Marching Home?
This won the Golden Leopard at Locarno International Film Festival, which that's very interesting.
That is interesting.
I don't know how high up a Golden Leopard is, but I'm assuming it's a top prize at an international film festival. That's weird to me, but we'll talk about the film in a minute. This was indeed nominated for Best Motion Picture Story at the Oscars, and this is actually referenced in the movie MASH, which is interesting because the cinephiles are covering MASH presently.
It's a war comedy, right?
It is a war comedy.
I've seen some of the TV show.
It's like I feel like the movie's a dark comedy.
Yeah, so it was the show.
And, well, I have watched 0 episodes of MASH.
I used to watch it with my childhood babysitter.
But, so we have When Willie Comes Marching Home. Jess, what are your general thoughts on the film?
I did not expect the third act adventure at all. I thought they were just going to bully this man.
Yep.
I was also annoyed at his superiors, and him, why doesn't he explain why he's not being sent overseas? I'm a marksmanship coach. Why doesn't someone stick up for him? Everyone's just bullying him and he's not throwing himself.
My biggest problem with this film is that it leans into that horror. Honestly, this film helped reinforce to me that one of my least favorite tropes in film, specifically comedies, is that the whole rest of the world is completely illogical and just gives the protagonist so much crap for no damn reason. Mm-hmm. And the only way the comedy works is if that's the case. So the whole conceit of the movie is just downright ridiculous because his dad's ashamed of him because he's not... Because the thing is, he was the first one to volunteer to go fight.
Yeah.
And then he was everybody's favorite. And then his dad's ashamed of him. His mom's dismissive of him. Mm-hmm. He gets overshadowed by his girlfriend's brother, who actually comes home and did all these things, except...
Yeah. He doesn't give him any crap.
He actually respects
He's fine with it,
Willie,
yeah.
Which I feel like that's the one nice saving grace in the first 2/3 of this film, is that everybody else is an idiot, but the actual soldiers respect him for what he does. He almost died in a really incredibly staged stunt in this movie with that plane crashing.
Yeah, they did 2 of those. They had 2 plane crashes.
Well, the first one, which was in Puxatawny, this was an accident. And, he could have died.
He was training other soldiers, right?
Sharpshooting out of the plane. But, it's ridiculous that so many people are just so dismissive of him and his contributions to the war effort.
And it's their fault they built him up. They gave him a bracelet and they gave him a party, which is fine. And then they're like, oh, this guy, he's trying to get out of going overseas. I'm like, do you not know how the army works?
And, he shouldn't have to explain himself.
Well, look at Catch-22. Mm-hmm. He kept trying to get out, and they kept making him in. So, I don't feel like they don't have a lot of choice.
Yeah, this is the opposite.
It is the opposite.
He kept talking to his superior officer, which...
He's like, please send me overseas.
Yeah, and he kept being so dismissive. It's like, no. Your skills are incredible. We need you to train other people. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a job. There's, janitorial staff in the military, right? Mm-hmm. People have jobs everywhere in the military.
Well, yeah, it takes...
And it's a action comedy that I liked more than this movie, Get Smart. Mm. His whole thing is he's way too good at intelligence. They don't want to put Maxwell Smart into the field. And... at least that film's much more reasonable about eventually allowing him to go do that. And
MASH, the only reason MASH is kind of funny is because it's a coping mechanism for them. I mean, the theme is called Suicide is
gallows humor.
Yeah, which... from what I've heard of being in the military, that's...
Well, and they're not, military people. They're doctors.
Yeah,
and surgeons who, the military's we need doctors! You're recruited!
They're army doctors, right?
Well, that's the thing, but they were drafted. Mm. They didn't want to be there. That's one of the running... at least the movie, that's the running joke, is, Don Sutherland and Elliot Gould don't want to be there. Mm. But the thing is, they're going to be assholes about it and save people's lives because they do their job.
Yeah, they're good at it. They're smug.
Willie does his job, and he's great at it. Mm-hmm. And you have the running gag of his superior officer being like, I'm gonna nominate you for the...
Yeah, I'm gonna recommend you for another good conduct medal.
Yeah, and it's just thanks. And he keeps getting promoted. Every time he goes in and complains to get shipped off, he gets promoted. And...
it only makes him more... It's like Catch-22. It only makes him more valuable.
Well, that's the thing. The more you move up, the less you're going to move sideways. Mm-hmm. That vertical movement is going to probably reduce horizontal movement in the organization. Because, the military is an organization. You have to run it so.
Yeah, there's a hierarchy.
And, it's funny because his mother's played by the old obnoxious woman from Night of the Hunter, who I absolutely
that lady.
hate. Which I feel like none of these actors are like big standouts. I do feel like that Dan Daly, who plays Bill, does a really fine job.
Yeah.
It's interesting though that you have this film after years of like John Wayne or Henry Fonda leading all of John Ford's movies.
Maybe he needed a palate cleanser.
And like, because that's the thing, I couldn't see, well, you couldn't put either of them in this movie. That wouldn't have worked. Like, that just wouldn't have clicked here. But I think Daly does a fine job. Like, the second biggest name in this movie is Corinne Colvett, who plays the French singer in The Resistance in the last third of the movie.
Yeah, that was wild. It was like all that build up and then...
Well, they finally sent him off because they need somebody last minute, and he's going, and nobody believes him on his way out.
Oh yeah, they're like, see you tomorrow.
It's like, no, I'm actually... And they're like, no, don't go, you're gonna die! And it's just like, well, you weren't saying shit like that when he was home all the time. Like, well, we're so blessed to have you home because we know you're safe. Which he's not, because he almost died at home anyway.
The dad was like, you have to always hang around here. Yep. He also beats him up when he sneaks in the house.
Yes. Which, the whole third act of this movie is a whirlwind, complete tonal shift. The whole scene on the plane and, like, the jumping out of the plane and the plane crashing, that was cool. And then it turns into, like, he lands in France. He meets the Resistance. They, like, even, like, the tense moments don't even feel tense because they gloss over them.
Well, he gets stuck in a tree on his way down.
Yeah.
And he's like, whoop, whoop.
And, like, the Nazis come and take a man away, and it's like, that. And they don't even really make a big deal about it.
that was weird. The whole bar is silent for like 30 seconds, and then they're like, ah.
And then...
They hide him well, though.
The whole third act is a running gag of everybody keeps asking him to tell his story. And he's so exhausted he can't tell the story, so they feed him more alcohol. So he gets drunker and drunker and drunker.
Dog.
It's just craziness. It's ridiculous.
He'd be dead from alcohol poisoning, probably.
The logic of this movie is absurd and makes no sense. You have to really suspend your disbelief to enjoy this movie and not just get frustrated about it. I feel like most of the performers do a really fine job. However, if you're just wanting something for 82 minutes that's ridiculous and you can have some fun with, that's this movie. Like, I don't think there's fleeting glimpses of depth. And, like, there's a party where the brother comes home, and I feel like that has some legitimate weight. I feel like...
he's even because he's afraid to go in there, because he knows they're all gonna bully him out.
But then, this is what they criticize Marvel for. They can't let you sit in the emotion, because then a dog starts biting at his foot on his way out when he's upset.
But Charlie, I mean, there is that moment where Charlie is, like, legitimately happy to see him.
Yeah, but it's like... And, like, he's sad that he's gone. Because, like, he goes away when everybody's so dismissive of him. And it's one of those kinds of things where it's like, this film has things to say, and only casually and occasionally just...
passive-aggressive comments.
Sprinkles stuff in there.
From your girlfriend.
So, especially after, like, a string of movies that I felt like were, like, really high-quality works from John Ford, it's come in 1950... Nice and easy. And he's like, we're just having some fun this time.
Low stakes for what it is.
Yeah, like, this guy goes off and, like, he has this film footage of these master weapons from Nazis. Like, this is some heavy stuff. And it's just like...
It's like, okay, buddy, here you go. They, like, shove him onto a boat.
They try to put him in a psychiatric ward, and he escapes.
What I was thinking about this in the shower just now, like... Shouldn't the army have some kind of letterhead or like a seal or something, not just like a note? Because the doctor takes one look at the note, he's like, oh, there's a little light on the detail for this guy, come over here.
There's a little light on the details of the screenwriting, too.
Yeah, it's like, you would think there would be something like, I don't know. I'm actually army guy.
It's there just so that they can have the excuse of trying to put him in a psych ward, and he escapes in a silly way, and then...
Oh yeah, he just sprints out of there. Honestly, there's not a lot of security. He just kind of runs, and then they
for a military hospital, very, very strange. Very strange indeed. It's
Yeah,
this.
was it supposed to be a military hospital?
I don't know.
Because there were a lot of elderly people in there.
It was all the
The psych ward,
Spanish
like you
American War veterans.
Because they would have still been alive, that's right. That's how long ago this was.
Timetable.
World War I, because his dad won't shut up about how he served in World War One.
So in the end, this movie is silly, ridiculous, but it has its charm on some level, and it has some funny gags along the way.
And my grandpa was, I think he volunteered to go to Korea, and he was stationed in Alaska, and he always talked about, they gave him a medal in this area for, like, just being in, serving, and he didn't want to take it. He refused to take it. My grandma had to talk him into it, because he was like, I didn't see combat. Some of my friends died. I didn't. I was just hanging out in Alaska, and my grandma was, I think, right where she said, you would have been ready. Like, what if they came in Alaska while you were over there?
Yeah, you were there for a reason.
But that's the attitude. So maybe it's a generational thing that...
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely true, and I'm sure John Ford has that feeling.
The crap out of John Wayne for complaining.
Yeah. So that's when Willie comes marching home. So it's a silly and offbeat kind of war comedy that you probably didn't know you'd be getting. And
surprise.
Jess, what would you like to recommend to everybody?
I would like to recommend Wolfwalkers. I enjoyed it a lot, and I feel like I never see anybody talking about it, which makes me sad because it's beautiful and well done.
Cartoon Saloon is incredible. You can get their Irish folklore trilogy on Blu-ray like I did. It's a cool box set.
It is. It's aesthetic.
It was my favorite film of 2020. Came out on Apple TV+.
It was great.
So it actually has a physical release, which is nice for a streaming movie. Just the way that it captures the beauty of the animation, the story, some heavy themes about religion and authoritarianism and colonialism, and like just enforcing
unilateral
Christianity upon the pagan like Gaelic.
Celts.
Yep, and it's just like this. It has all the awesome magic. Has great shots. It's thrilling. Has some great
character design is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So I have a couple of recommendations. So one is A Quiet Place Day One, which not my favorite of the three, probably my least favorite of the three. I think it leverages its new setting in New York in an interesting way. But
it has a cat.
Yes, the cat's great, and so is Lupita Nyong'o, and she's probably the best character in any of the movies. So like, there's some really great human elements to this film. It just, how much can you really do with these aliens? Like, there's not a whole lot of variation what they do. Mm-mm. They're basically like mad dogs who can't see, and only hear, and have a insatiable appetite. So it's basically like, you only do so much with
like
that
Jurassic
after.
Park, but
well, the magic was gone after the first one.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
You didn't know what they were.
Yep. One film off of my watch list I watched was a old 1915 film called Daydreamers, and has some really impressive special effects and how it incorporates different kinds of like supernatural elements and stuff like that. It's like 30-minute film, definitely worth checking out. There's so many things that you can watch on YouTube from the early days of cinema, so take a dive. And one film of ours that we recently rewatched, which was such a delight to rewatch, was The Full Monty.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Which is about a group of men.
Aggressively English men
who are middle-aged, who live in Sheffield, which is like blue-collar capital of England. Industrial town. And they're all down on their luck. Whether they had office jobs or whichever.
Factory jobs, I think.
Factory jobs was the big one.
Yeah, similar to the Rust Belt.
And their way that they're going to wind up making money is that they saw Chippendales in town and they're like, we're going to make our own strip dance routine and everything.
They're going to do the full because when Shane told me the title, I was like, doesn't that mean full frontal nudity? He's like,
Yep,
that's a joke.
Robert Carlyle, Mark Addy, it's my favorite part of the movie, Robert Baratheon, Tom Wilkinson, who brings a lot of emotion to it. All three of them specifically have so much depth and give great performances. This film is tight.
There's a lot of good chemistry in it too. Yeah. I believe that these are middle-aged Englishmen from a dilapidated.
They each have their own storyline going on in terms of the complexities of their own familial relationships, whether it's marriage or children, and it's funny. It's so damn funny, and it's so earnest. Like when the final performance they give is so cathartic, and just such a big put a big smile on your face. Yeah, this was nominated for Best Picture, which it should have been because it's so delightful. But like in 1998 and 97. The films in 1997, like, this was nominated for Best Picture with L.A. Confidential and Titanic.
It's such a shame.
And Good Will Hunting.
I really enjoy movies where men can be tender and vulnerable and aren't relentlessly mocked for it, like About Time and his relationship with his dad. Yep. Like in this movie, they're all insecure about their bodies or the rhythm or whatever it is. It's nice to see that. And
my God, Mark Addy is so fat.
My God. They're so rude to him. And
it's like, he has like a slight beer belly.
Yeah,
and a bit of a fuller face.
A bit of a dad bod.
But like Robert Carlyle looks like he played one of the characters in Trainspotting. He's like thin as a rail.
He reminds me of someone I would be related to, honestly.
But in the end, this is such a charming and wonderful film. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
It's sweet.
I did not hear great things about the Legacy sequel series that came out on FX this year, or the end of last year. I'm going to get around to it eventually. But that's another episode of Welcome to the Wasteland. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jess, thank you so much for coming on and talking more John Ford movies.
You're welcome.
They just keep coming.
I made this happen.
They just keep... Yes, Jess put it in the universe. It just keeps happening.
I'm still riding that high.
And we're getting into round 3 of our tournament, The Crown. So after John Ford, we're going right into Wes Anderson for the first couple months of 2025. And then this tournament's going to say who's next. So if you want to partake, head over to Instagram and go to my story. Every day there's a new matchup. Have your voice heard. Figure out who's going to be next. But thank you all, as always, for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.